Greetings and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four fiends have chilling discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog to distract themselves from the inevitable rising of the sun and their own rapidly waning ability to instill fear in the youth. I am CyberLink.
I was wondering who was going to do the terrible Dracula voice. I'm glad you beat the rest of us to it. I am Faulerro. My gain is too loud. This is terrible. Why is he Russian now?
I am Game Buddy. Boo, like a ghost.
I'm scaredy Jake.
Zoinks.
And I really hope I can stop doing this voice. It's a... Oh, there we go.
Oh, he exercised.
Oh, thank goodness.
Would you say it's murder on your throat?
No. And welcome to our very first, let's say, bonus stage of The Hill is Always Greener. This one's, we've already recorded episodes, but we wanted to get something out, as a special Halloween treat. So this one's going to be a little bit shorter, but today we're getting into the spooky mood by talking about a very spooky short, Sonic Night of the Werehog, originally released in November 2008 to promote Sonic Unleashed. It actually had a brief theatrical and TV run in early 2009 in Japan, and Joypalus Arcade basically had it as a 3D movie attraction from 2012 to 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I would have loved to see that.
Another reason to break into a Joypalus.
Well, it's already closed down, so one less, unfortunately.
Yeah. Maybe it's actually haunted now.
Ooh.
Oh. Now you got me interested again. Yeah, this was animated by Sega VE Animation Studio, who would later be renamed to Marza Animation Planet, who they've done the CG for basically every Sonic game from 2006 onward, occasionally with collaborating with other studios like Blur for 06, along with some of the CG for the Sonic movies and that Drone Home short. But they've also done CG for other Sega games like Phantasy Star Online 2 and Project Diva, some promotional renders for other companies' games like Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon. They did a couple of movies like Resident Evil Vendetta and that Lupin the Third, the first movie, which looks gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
That explains a lot.
And they even did animation for a couple of Hatsune Miku stage shows.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they get around.
Although Hatsune Miku is a Sega property, right? So that makes sense for them.
They license her.
Okay.
Like they collaborate on like the games and the live performances and stuff, but they don't own the character outright.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Hatsune Miku is nobody's property. She is her own woman doing her own thing.
This is true.
I tried to do some digging on the production crew for this one. It was directed by Takashi Nakashima, who I couldn't find a lot of credits for. The only thing of note I noticed was a storyboard credit on Chi's Sweet Adventure.
The cute little kitty cat anime.
Yeah. The character design, just like Unleashed, was done by Guru Hiro, who's a Japanese artist duo that I've been a fan of for years because of their comic book work. Like, most people will know them for being the artists on Gwenpool, Marvel Power Pack, and all of the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, they do fantastic work, and I'm always super excited to see them on a project.
Sweet.
Since the short opens up with a couple of them, people have their preferences, especially whether or not humans should be sharing the screen with Sonic at all. But oh man, I love the human designs in Unleashed. Especially I was reminded that after Sonic 06's weird, just horribly bastardized anime people, it's such a breath of fresh air to see some funny, cartoony, I would say universal, cartoony designs that mesh with, Sonic characters.
I feel like if you're going to have humans and Sonic coexisting, that is the kind of design that probably works best.
Either that or James Marsden, apparently, according to
In terms of the cast, it's, the same voice actors carrying over from Unleashed. Junichi Kanemaru and Jason Griffith is Sonic. Tomokazu Seki is the Werehog in Japanese, and then Ryoko Shiraishi and Tony Salerno as Chip. We have 3 original characters created for this that have kind of become Marza's pet characters. You see them in a lot of their social media and stuff. We've got 3 ghosts. We've got the kind of central one, La, who is played by Momoko Ishikawa, who I didn't find a whole lot of roles for her. Apparently she retired a few years ago. And then her henchmen are Sue and Wu, played by Ryan Dries and Kevin Glenns, respectively. I couldn't find anything on Kevin, but Ryan apparently does a lot of work over in Japan. He played Jeffrey McWild in the Virtua Fighter games, Splash Warfly and Ride Borsky in Mega Man X7, Samurai Goro and others in F-Zero GX, Tom the Hot Dog Guy in Shenmue, and President Michael Wilson in Metal Wolf Chaos.
Oh my goodness. I kind of assumed it might have been that, like a English speaking actor working in Japan, since most of the voices are the same. There are two different versions of this short, one in Japanese, one in English. And aside from like the credits and like some of the titles being changed, most of the voices are the same. Like Jason Griffith is Sonic in this, especially when he takes over when the Werehog shows up. But like most of the character performance, the sounds are Kanemaru, like in both languages. Like I think Sonic says like oops, and you can tell that that's Jason.
Oops.
But they just left in a lot of the stuff. And yeah, the kids at the beginning, the ghosts, all have like the same voice regardless. Again, mostly because they don't say any full words. It's just it's a character performance. I just thought that was interesting.
I'd like to also give a special shout out to the writer of this, Kyoko Yoshimura, who has been a writer, it seems mostly in the anime industry, but also has a lot of ties to Sonic as well. She was a scenario writer for Sonic Unleashed. She helped with some of the game script for the Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 game. And she even wrote quite a few episodes for the Sonic X TV series. So I just think it's really cool that they didn't hire somebody else like outside of the whole franchise to write something. I can see the perspective on it to try to get a new fresh take, but I also appreciate, especially, the same person who wrote like the scenarios for Sonic Unleashed, like, hey, this is in promotion of Sonic Unleashed. Let's just, have them write this too. And I'm sure that had to be such a creatively freeing exercise to do such a fun short like this.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts, because if you remember correctly, there are isn't it 2 or 3 other like 30-second shorts you can actually unlock in Unleashed proper. I always remember the one of Sonic and Chip fighting over the dumplings is
exactly
really
what my mind went to when you mentioned that.
Yeah,
and it's so interesting. I love that Marza manages to interject a lot of like. I don't know if traditional is the right word, but like cartoony animation onto the Sonic characters. And I feel like this is about where you started to see more of that. Before, you think of like the motion capture they used in Sonic Adventure 2 and like in Sonic 06, to where sometimes it just doesn't look right on these, big-headed mascot characters. And I feel like these shorts are some of the best examples of like, oh, you can push these character models to where the expressions and the actions and all really comes through. And they did such a great job. That's my favorite part of this, for certain.
I mean, that's where having like these Pixar-y characters really helps as well, because they're allowed to look a little bit, because they are Pixar-y characters. That's where my mind goes to.
They really are.
And they're allowed to sort of move like that, and it sort of fit. The models fit this style of animation.
Yeah, I love how they break Chip's face so many times to do all of his big, his big expressions. And my favorite little bit, I think, is maybe when they're sitting in front of the fire with the teacups and Chip gets scared once more and his just whole head like breaks. And I'm like, oh yeah, he does look like a goofy little apple-headed chihuahua, doesn't he? And it reminded me why that like I went through like, do I like Chip? Do I not like Chip? And I think I like Chip because he's just a cute little fella.
Well, here's the thing. You take away Chip's English-speaking voice, got all of the credit in the world to the actor, and suddenly the character becomes a bit more enjoyable, I find. because
I was gonna I'm trying to stay nice, but just laying it all out, that was a big factor. I don't know whose decision it was to make Chip sound like a full-grown man in English, but it's not a decision I agreed with, so I'll just leave it at that. But
the actor delivered exactly as they wanted him to. Don't know if it was the right casting decision. No offense to Tony Salerno and his obvious abilities as an actor. This is just a case of strange casting, which is a Sonic trend.
Yep.
I hope that goes without saying. Usually, especially when it comes up in the context of Sonic, when I am criticizing a character's voice, it is usually the casting, directing decisions and not the actor themselves, because there is no morality connected to their performance, if that makes sense. They did what they were asked to do, so... Someday we'll get deep into that, but not today.
Yeah.
The one last piece of behind the scenes information I was able to find is none of the traditional Sonic composers actually worked on the short. The music was all done by Tetsuya Takahashi, no relation to the Xenoblade producer, who also did the music for the Appleseed movies and all of the Marvel anime. Apparently, anytime Marvel has an anime production, they just have them on speed dial.
Interesting.
Hey, at least he's got a consistent job.
I guess so. Yeah, with all that out of the way, let's jump into the short itself, because I really like the short. I remember really enjoying this when it first came out all those years ago. And it's just got such a great kind of, classic cartoony vibe to it. Like right from the start, when you're getting the shot of the gate kind of hanging open, the old house silhouetted against the lightning strikes and everything. It's so good at setting the atmosphere, which Marza is really good at doing in basically all of their productions.
It reminded me of, and I'm not saying they copied anything, I'm paying both a compliment when I say that it reminds me of how Luigi's Mansion back on the GameCube still looks so incredibly good because of the comedy kids horror design that uses a lot of very clever lighting and bright colors, and it just looks amazing. Like, even though if you look real close, you can see, I bet those textures would be a little crisper if they did it today in full HD, but nothing about this has aged poorly at all. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It still looks really good.
This is a fascinating thing for me, because we haven't got into it in the podcast yet. You're going to catch up to that, folks. But I'm not the world's biggest Sonic Unleashed fan, but I do enjoy this short. And I don't typically enjoy things involving the Werehog, but that's mostly when I have to play as the Werehog. But in a funny little animation where you can take full advantage of his stretchy abilities, I have a good time. And this is a lovely looking little animation that I do enjoy and doesn't wear out its welcome.
I think we got a little bit of a preview when we touched on that saga in the Archie comics that leads into the Sonic Champions, is the whole Sonic Unleashed pseudo adaptation that features the Werehog and Chip, and it really is it's a concept that I like when they do cool things with it, and it just unfortunately is not really the game it came from, because it's not fun to play. And people say it's Sonic fans not knowing how to play their games. No, I like character action games. I like a Devil May Cry style or a God of War. I just don't think the Werehog is a good one of those. So, okay, to quickly change subjects here, I don't remember if there is any other supplemental material that clarifies this, but I do like how with this intro with the two little kids walking into the haunted house, is that wherever this is obviously the local legend. It's if you sneak into that house you see a ghost. Nuh-uh, well, let's do it. And I feel like the short, even without without like clarifying that, like perfectly sets the tone. Like, of course, that's why these kids would sneak in here.
Yeah.
Is because it's playground. It's a playground ghost story, and it just does such a good job of setting that up.
Yeah, and the fact that it's nonverbal for the most part really helps to both kind of make it timeless and work for kind of translate over to everybody, no matter how or what language you speak or anything, because it just does such a good job with the environmental storytelling and with the characters conveying everything through their actions that you really don't feel like, you don't need voice acting in a short like this, because everybody says everything, as they are. And I think that's kind of perfect.
Well, when you have like the setup of like the kids going in to test their bravery, and then you cut to like the image of all these Polaroids of these kids, like other kids who have been scared to death by these by these ghosts, that just tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly.
To add on to like the whole dialogue-less factor of the short, Marza, we've mentioned before, but they just do such a good job with facial expressions that it's all in their faces. You don't need to hear them say anything, because you can see like their entire backstory just by the faces that they make.
Yeah. I love some of the little details on like both of the ghosts, Sue and Wu, like have pointy fangs that whenever they grit their teeth or close their mouths, like always poke over their lips. And it's a cute little detail. Also, this is the first time I think I've noticed that their instant photos, their Polaroids, have their little signatures, either the bow tie or the little bandana ascot.
Yeah.
Signing like who's the one that took the picture. So La, what? Who is La?
Yeah, I was wondering when we were going to talk about
that. I thought like, oh yeah, of course they want to go, a kiss from the cute lady ghost. Like, no, I think this is more of if I could be a little crass, I think they're her little pay pigs, and they are helping feed her teratophilia, because she really loves this wolf man and hopes they find him one day.
It's more, I think, that she just likes seeing people scared than the Wolfman specifically. She's clearly a big fan of monster movies in general. Like, you see the Wolfman posters, the Mummy posters. There's a Frankenstein somewhere in the background. Like, so she's big on classic horror movies, but I think she more just kind of gets off on seeing people scared.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get the impression, like, just looking at some of the photos in the background, you do actually see glimpses of her as a living person, and I'm assuming that she and the two other ghosts died here. I get the feeling that maybe she was a rich person in the previous life, so the suffering of others being amusing to her just checks out.
Her unfinished business is that she's just a heartless bastard forever.
And she enjoys it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a cute setup.
Look, all I'm saying is that she's a Dreamcast owner, so she can't be a bad person.
Yeah, you find one of those. In this haunted, spooky ghost house, it makes sense to have a dead console,
Yeah.
It's not even plugged into anything.
Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but this is just probably a me thing, but looking at these ghost designs, particularly Sue and Wu, there's a bit of a ghostly trio from Casper look about them.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
The Stretch and Fatso looking guys.
Yep.
No stinky to be seen, but...
Well, it's interesting you say that, because originally it was going to be three male ghosts.
I did read that, and I was like, maybe.
And I'm looking at the storyboards, and they look like the ghostly trio.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see those.
Yeah, even the center lobby area, like when Sonic first walks in, it honestly looks a lot like the house from the 90s Casper movie. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Marza got a lot of inspiration from that Casper movie just for the short in general. And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like bemoan that. I'm not gonna like, poo-poo on that at all. I think that's fantastic, and I think that they did a great job with, if they did take inspiration from it, making it their own thing while also still kind of paying homage.
I was going to make a clever joke about the Casper movie. I realised I don't remember much about it now in hindsight.
It's very bad, except that it looks okay. It looks like Jake said, it has really cool design elements. Otherwise, it's weird.
Yep.
Dan Aykroyd showed up as Ray for about 5 seconds and then left.
I know, you goofy weirdo. And then at the end, they invent a machine that undoes God's hold over life and death.
But it only works once.
Yeah, it only works once.
Only once.
La, Su, and Wu clearly have a system going because they've been doing this whole spook the kids that come into this house ever so often. But they're about to meet their biggest challenge yet. A hedgehog and a tiny light Skya spirit thing.
Apple-headed chihuahua like Jeremy.
With wings.
With wings.
Yep. Yeah. And we know that Sonic is a threat because he tracks mud in on his filthy, stinky shoes. Sonic, you
true.
rude little man.
That's the attitude, I'm glad to see it represented even in this.
So there you go.
I mean, I just said, we don't look too hard into it, but I do think that's a great character thing for Sonic, is that they linger on, he just walks in. They're obviously, they're coming in to get out of the rain, Sonic and Chip, and he's like, well, this looks like a good place, and just, traipses right in, tracking mud. He'll apologize later if somebody yells at him.
I'm pretty sure you can see Chip trying to warn him, no, Sonic, don't.
Yeah.
But I think, so I can't remember if it's from the Sonic Bible or from something else we saw, but I remember there was something that we read that said that Sonic's greatest weakness was that he had no fear. And I don't know if I'm speculating too hard, but I wonder if maybe they referenced that for the short, because Sonic doesn't get scared at all, and he just gets upset later on.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
I don't think it's actually a reference to that, because I don't think Sega ever Sega or Japan ever pull anything from that. I do think it's a case of, he's the mascot cool guy, so he can't be seen getting scared. But I would love for that to have been a reference to
Although, to be fair, that is why La gets so upset later, is that she spies Sonic in the background looking bored, and, she conveys through her body language, well, who is this guy? Get me a picture of him scared. That is another thing, is that the whole time Sonic is completely oblivious that these ghosts have been scaring Chip the entire time. And so when he decides to pull a harmless prank and scare Chip, the poor guy just passes right out.
Yeah. But after the two ghosts, Sue and Wu, have taken so many pictures of Chip, and after La has seen that, and now that they know that La is no longer interested in it, the two of them actually form a pact, because they feel like they have been messed with by Sonic for the fact that he hasn't been scared once. And so
yeah, she gets mad that, she likes all these pictures of Chip, but there's a few of Sonic just being completely nonplussed by the whole experience and mocking them. And she's like, well, this is the quality you're going to give me? Fine. Oh.
So the two simps set aside their differences. Oh no, the VTuber isn't paying enough attention to us. We need to work together on this one.
I'm a tier 3 sub.
Oh, I can't relate.
And to roll off of that great joke, the two of them join their fists together in great simp energy with green flames.
Yeah.
At first, they try to corner him by possessing statues of armor, but
I love how this armor looks too. What a great design.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, was that Sega that had that very short-lived online little RPG that was little suits of armor?
Spiral Knights?
Yeah, man. Remember Spiral Knights? I played that for 10 minutes, and then they pulled the servers.
I think I logged in long enough to get the Metal Sonic skin in that, and then I never touched it again.
Yeah, it just reminds me of that. It's very, again, lots of bright colors to these, and cool shapes, and distinctly sticks out as just, instead of generic armor. I really like them.
Yeah, they look really cool.
But as soon as I think they're going to corner Sonic and get a picture of him scared, surprise! Sonic sees the light of the full moon, which is totally not how he transforms in the actual game itself.
Rule of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Wolfman rules. They're leaning into that. With
Yeah,
this,
definitely.
even down to the name of this, Night of the Werehog, Night of the Wolfman, or was it Night of the Werewolf? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they break it at the end where it's clearly daytime and he just strolls right out of the house. But again, rule of cool.
Well, we'll get to that. But yeah, Sonic turns into the Werehog, knocks him away, and they inadvertently just end up crashing and taking a picture of themselves freaking out, much to La's amusement. And that's when they decide, okay, it's personal now.
Which the transformation itself is very cool. I think, is this the first? Oh, I think they already had one, but they do a couple of shots where they just go into slow motion for no reason. And I think they all look really good. Yeah. They work really well. It's neat. You know, they even slow the audio down too. And it's,
I think this was during that time of like animated movie, like kind of tropes where like slowed down footage also gets slowed down audio, because I definitely remember Kung Fu Panda did that a few times in the first movie as well.
Oh yeah, it probably all came out of like, let's do a Matrix parody, and then just became like its own thing. And yes, it is much funnier in a cartoon if you slow the audio down too.
Yeah.
Plus, when you do it in a cartoon, you can get such great like squash and stretch effects and really kind of emphasize that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think the first one is when a few times Chip gets his picture taken the first time, and yeah, played for funny. And this with the Werehog, it just looks cool as hell. Like I said, like, man, the Werehog can be pretty neat. I do also like when the ghosts run over, you get a nice deadpan beat, and then Chip and Sonic look at each other and go,
So we get a pretty cool fight scene actually, in basically the second half of the short. Where, you know, Sonic is struggling for a bit. Chip realizes that the camera can actually take pictures of ghosts even when they're invisible. But we get presented with a real problem that these instant photos aren't completely instant. And so Sonic is still left trying to figure out what to do, and kind of ends up going into a rage.
It is very funny that Chip's idea does not work at all.
As Sonic is going up against Sue and Woo's combined form, Baker.
Yeah, the Minotaur green ghosty. He's pretty cool looking too.
I was going to say, since we're in this mode of talking about this, it's caused me to pause the video of this on YouTube a few times. And I really want to suggest, like, to everybody listening to this, watch the short straight through. And then if you want to watch it again, please, by all means, especially just like wherever you want, but especially during high action, high movement scenes, pause, because like the image smears of animation are amazing. Like, like I've paused on Law, like dying laughing all over again. And she just looks like some sort of weird ghost bean that's purple and pink.
Yeah, that is another thing. I've like I said, I just don't remember. I guess this was around where like more 3D animated cartoons starting doing that, to where like, you know, I feel like the end result is now you have movies like Turning Red, or like The Bad Guys, who are, or like you said, like the Mars's own Lupin the Third movie, where like it's almost indistinguishable, the techniques, and not that, you know, 3D animation before this was bad, but it was a growing medium. And yeah, it is just so cool to see that used, and how, like I said, like even to this day, like this short holds up.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, would like a phone camera actively like using the video recorder have worked in place of the the normal camera?
Oh yeah, God, I mean, yeah, was this the you know, one of the last times you could have that as an understood plot point? I mean, I know instant photos are still around.
Yeah, I was gonna say it still would have been timeless enough, because, you know, they've been dead for a while. They wouldn't have any digital technology.
Yeah.
But
it's how every horror movie where something happened, you have to have a scene where everyone's phones stop working, because that would solve 90% of the problem.
But we are conceivably at the point of the world where there could be like ghosts that have been around for a long time that had smartphones.
Yeah,
I mean, that's true.
Ghosts get iPad.
It's good that they show, you know, the photos developing in earlier scenes, because other kids might not have realized, oh no, this is how cameras used to work.
Yeah.
Come, children, come look at these developing Polaroids.
These
ancient artifacts.
Even though Sonic does he shakes it and blows on it, which doesn't actually help.
Right, yeah.
It's a good song, that's for sure.
It's a cultural
I mean,
meme.
Sonic was born in the 90s. He knows how these things work.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So during the fight, Baker is able to land a very devastating headbutt onto Sonic to the point where it knocks Sonic into a wall, cracking it, and then causing him to basically pass out for a little bit. And
that uppercut right before too. That's another.
Oh yeah,
man, right on the jaw.
I love that the photos Sonic sees of like Ghost Baker are him in the exact same mocking poses that Sonic was in the pictures earlier.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a great detail.
A little bit of revenge that Sonic doesn't even know about.
Baker ends up being undone by his own hubris because Sue and Wu can't stay together long enough for one of them to take the picture because they both want the credit.
Yeah.
And that exposes them long enough for the Werehog to give him the old Bowser swing and then knock him right out of the building. Of course, La is ultimately not fazed by any of this because now that she knows, oh my God, the Wolfman is in my house, I'm so excited.
Yeah, we knew that she liked horror movie characters, but no, it turns out she's a monster fucker. I mean, she's a monster girl herself, I guess, in a way. Kind of.
And thus the La gets an idea. An awful idea.
A wonderful, awful idea.
The short basically ends with Sonic walking back out of the mansion into kind of the morning daylight. Chip insists on getting a selfie with him, getting real up close and personal. Even Sonic's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Personal space, hello."
Knock it off, kid.
Except, of course, as the photograph reveals, Chip in quotes is actually La in disguise. And the real Chip is bound up against a chair in the mansion as Sue and Wu are just looking like, yeah, buddy, same.
Yep. Just assume he eventually starved to death and became a ghost too.
And actually, fake Chip even has a heart on, I guess, her cheek like La does. So it's it's still a little bit of a giveaway there.
I think she's a little pinker as well in general, the look of Chip here.
Yeah, it's a little harder to clock in Japanese because their actresses sound slightly similar. But yeah, then you see the little heart on her cheek and you're like, wait a minute. And then, they take the picture and she got what she wanted.
So there was originally a stinger to this ending, as revealed in the storyboards. As we mentioned before, they kind of cheat because it's more or less morning out, but Sonic is not turning back from Werehog. Except that was the original ending, where Sonic turns back, La is shocked and gets fed up with him, slaps him for quote-unquote lying to her, and storms off. And Sonic's just like, what just happened?
Very specific taste in tall, burly, hairy men, and Sonic just doesn't cut it in his base form.
Nope.
She's probably feeling catfished in this moment.
A little bit.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cute.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and then we're stuck with the other stinger, which is just Chip falling out of his chair, still tied up. Again, assuming he's been imprisoned by the ghosts, binding his spirit to the haunted house just like they are.
Something like that. One of the things that's cool about this is that Marza has basically put out the original storyboard concept in full. So, like we said, this was originally 3 ghosts who were just like scaring anybody who dared to intrude on their property rather than, Sue and Wu trying to impress La with their photos and everything. The camera didn't even factor into it at all. Originally, it was going to be Sonic and Chip wander in and the ghosts try to scare them away. Then the Werehog shows up. So they're like, okay, this clearly isn't working. Sonic isn't even scared in his base form. So we need to reevaluate a plan. And instead, they end up like summoning this eldritch creature, monster, ghost thing that attacks Sonic instead of Baker. While Sonic is fighting him in Werehog form and having the same problems where he can't hit him because he can't see him, Chip is getting haunted by the 3 ghosts. And during the like shared scuffles, the ghosts try to throw like a tablecloth on Chip. It misses, lands on the big ghost, so it just looks like classic bedsheet ghost. And Werehog's like, I can see you now. I'm going to beat the crap out of you now. And he takes down the big one. Chip's getting knocked around. And just happened after Werehog takes him down, Chip just happens to land in such a position that it looks like he's on top of him holding like a broom, so it looks like he defeated the big ghost. And the other 3 ghosts are like, oh my god, you defeated this big guy. Oh, master, we serve you now. They think Chip is the big hero. And Sonic's like, I'm confused, but I'm going to roll with it. And it ends on them kind of making amends with Sonic and Chip, giving him a goodbye present that is a jack-in-the-box that scares Chip. I also would have been okay with that interpretation as well. I think both versions are totally fine.
Yeah.
But either way, like, I think that this one is a super cute short in general, and I'm glad that it exists. And it's cool because Sue and Wu actually did make it into Unleashed.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they have little cameos in the background, I think.
Yeah, they're in 2 specific missions where it's like this guy keeps thinking he's seeing ghosts, and it ends up being those 2. Law did not make it in, but that's okay because I shudder to think what people would have done with that model.
Oh, dear.
I mean, I've seen some art. People like that character design.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good character design.
I do. Looking at these original storyboards, see one of the ghosts has glasses in a book. I bet he was the nerd ghost.
But yeah, that is Sonic Night of the Werehog. And if you haven't ever seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, do yourself a favor and go watch it. It's only 11 minutes and it's a blast from start to finish. It deserves to be considered like a timeless classic. I think it holds up spectacularly and it's a great way to kind of get in the spooky season mood.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all over YouTube, both versions. There's a couple of versions people have upscaled that look fine.
Yeah.
Pretty sure there's even a couple of torrents still out there that have the source file from Sega's like FTP server, which is the one I have.
Oh.
So, which is like the highest quality possible you could get. So it's very accessible. And yeah, like you said, Mars has been like a pretty free sharing like behind the scenes things and resources. And that's always very neat.
I kind of want to see more things like this, actually. From I know we've had animations. We have talked about some really great ones, but I wouldn't mind seeing more CG animations from Sega about Sonic.
Yes,
Yeah.
as much I mean, I would die for all of the animations we've been getting as well. They're so good. But yeah, just more. I don't know what to call it. Like, there is something to this being the same 3D team that does work on the game itself.
It creates sort of a consistency with what we know as Sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an in-house short film and it works. It doesn't feel like necessarily like a soulless product that Sega made just because they felt like they had to make something. Like, this honestly really does feel like a creative outlet that Sega was all on board for. And because, like, you can just see in the animation, there's so much fun to be had with it. It doesn't feel like it was just put into a now make it machine.
Well, it's because it's like it's a promotional piece, but it's not like here's the prequel, the prologue to Sonic Unleashed, which is the kind of thing we get now, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but it's not made with the concept of let's get people interested in Sonic Unleashed, because it gives you the concepts of Sonic Unleashed, but it's its own thing.
Yeah,
and I like.
It's also not like a McDonald's tie-in commeral,
right?
That just happens to use the same models.
Yeah,
that is nakedly about buy my book. That kind of thing.
Yeah, aside from like not knowing why Sonic turns into a werehog, you don't need to know anything about Unleashed to be able to enjoy this short completely at face value.
Yeah. Honestly, the best theory I could posit is if you had never heard of Sonic Unleashed and you saw this, one theory you could possibly come up with is that maybe there's just something about the house that turns him into a werehog when the moon is full. Like, maybe there's a spell on it or something.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It perfectly stands alone, even unconnected to Sonic Unleashed.
I do want to say, at the end of the short, they have a link to a website, nightofthewerehog.com. And here in 2022, I typed it in and I tried to go to it, and it just goes to a nothing website. There is nothing there. And
yeah. Unfortunately.
It would have been.
I'm going to buy the URL.
I think somebody technically owns it, but it's nothing. So. It would have been cool if it was
Yeah.
like a Space Jam the movie website kind of deal.
It is one of those things that because, and I always say this with fingers crossed and knock on wood, because Sega specifically about Sonic is so laissez-faire about people just re-uploading like even official stuff, that yes, it's okay that the official website is gone because you can see it anywhere.
Yeah.
Nightofthewerehog.com is $1,400 on GoDaddy. No, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, would have been a great opportunity to just link to the Sonic F page.
Yeah. Or this one episode of the podcast specifically.
Yeah.
People would be so angry at us, though. Who are these assholes?
So if you liked this episode, why don't you check out the full The Hill is Always Greener podcast? It's just like this, but longer.
And with the revelation of the price tag of the website, we are launching our Patreon. Please give us money so we can buy.
Not yet. I'll make it a stretch goal.
Well, what a fun little short and a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Amen.
I legitimately want to add this into my yearly Halloween rotation as far as short or like cartoons and shorts, because every year I love watching the Charlie Brown Halloween special and the Garfield Halloween special, and this is only 11 minutes. This easily fits in the rotation. So there you go.
Yeah.
I like the media that gets me in the mood.
This is a fantastic little cartoon, which I'm, one thing of Sonic Unleashed I really enjoy, as it tells us the story of what happens when photojournalists get a bit too enthusiastic to appease their bourgeois overlord.
They insert themselves into the story. You just can't do that.
That's how else you're going to get the big scoop.
Now, kids, the real lesson of this short is teamwork only gets you so far until you fight the ones you love.
The real moral of the story is subscribe to Law's OnlyFans.
All right, we got to get out of here now.
Ghostly fans. Ghostly fans.
Ghostly. Okay.
OnlyPhantoms.
OnlyPhantoms. Oh,
OnlyPhantoms.
I think my chair broke.
Oh, well, on that note.
You can find me on Twitter at CyberLink.
You can find me on Twitter and all the internet at Faulerro. That's Faulerro.
Oh my.
You can find me on Twitter at Great Job Jeremy. That's GR and the number 8. It's also where you'll find my grave because I'm dead.
Oh no.
Oh no.
And I am RockTheJake, or in this case, Scaredy Jake, because my friends are making scary sounds and
I think you're thinking of Jake's monster.
Jake and Science Monster.
And also, before we end the episode, special thanks to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. Please, please, please check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp, and follow her on Twitter and Instagram.
And it's thanks for our special music we used today to Faulerro.
Ooh, but normally you should thank Amy Waters for her usual music that we have on the podcast.
And of course, please make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, share the podcast, all that good stuff, because it does help us, get out there more and, just get more people listening to the podcast, because we have a blast doing it. And we hope that, we can spread it around, let other people in on the fun.
Because the thought of people not listening to this podcast is so scary.
We'll return to our regularly scheduled episodes soon, but until then, I'm CyberLink.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm GameBuddy.
And I'm RockTheJake. And hey, Knuckles, what's behind you?
What? A ghost!